podcast featuring e-commerce gurus, entrepreneurs, and enthusiasts. The goal of this podcast is to share the knowledge to learn and win together in the game of e-commerce. My guest in this episode is a gifted entrepreneurial artist who started a financially successful glass-blowing business, and more importantly, she is an influencer with 80,000 followers in Instagram and close to 2 million followers on the latest social network, TikTok. And our guest is on a mission to share the wealth of her knowledge on TikTok to the business community. In this episode, we'll be learning about e-commerce and TikTok for B2B and B2C e-commerce. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Maayan Gordon. All right. Hello, Maayan. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing well too. Thank you for the opportunity to get some wisdom out of you regarding TikTok and B2Bs, and the whole TikTok world, right? It is exploding.
Yeah, no, it's actually really crazy how quickly it's kind of taking over the world.
So tell me, why TikTok?
Yeah, so I think the main reason why TikTok, which is a pretty broad question, is technology. I think technology is really at the heart of all these social media apps and how we use them. And it's got really advanced technology in terms of AI software, in terms of different effects and filters that they're using, and then also in terms of their algorithm.
So would you rather say it is the experience using technology? It is that unique experience that people get attracted to. The users get attracted to TikTok, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. I think especially younger generations love technology, right? They've grown up learning all these different technologies, not just their phones, but like everything is technology now. I remember when I used to have an alarm clock, and no one's got those anymore. Everything's on your phone. So I think they really enjoy learning new features, whereas maybe some older people, struggle with that a little bit more in terms of frustration and feeling like, I don't want to learn anything new. But then I think another really big factor is just an emotional one, where everyone I've ever talked to who uses TikTok says that it makes them really happy. It makes them feel relaxed. It's an app you use and you feel good afterwards, versus I'm sure you've heard lots of times, people use Facebook and feel very negative afterwards. Or same with Instagram, you can get really jealous kind of looking at all the perfection on Instagram. And I think there's much, much less of that on TikTok.
So if you allow me to summarize, right?
Absolutely.
Kind of like frustrated new gen, right? And also people not having much time in their hand to glue to YouTubes of the world. This is a short adrenaline fix. Is that the popularity?
Yeah, we're all a bunch of addicts now, right? To this technology. And I definitely think one of the things that we're all addicted to is new. Like whatever is new, we want to see what it's up with that. We want to see what it's all about. We're very curious by nature. And so when we're shown something new, we're very intrigued by that. And TikTok's just dishing out new at, every 10 seconds. So
yeah. So let's go into the e-commerce part, right?
Absolutely.
Tell us about why should an e-commerce entrepreneur should look at TikTok?
So they are already rolling out some e-commerce features on the platform, both in China on the Douyin app and in America and around the rest of the world on TikTok itself. And a lot of the first kind of feature that they've rolled out is click-through links in the bio. So there are a number of larger creators who they have a link in their bio that goes to a website, and you can click on it to directly go to that website. So that's really great for e-commerce. In terms of other features that they're going to be rolling out, there's been a lot of talk about an entire e-commerce platform where items in videos are going to be clickable to then shop for them. I don't know if that'll be through link or if they're working on a marketplace the way that Facebook has Facebook Marketplace, which I kind of have a feeling that's what they're working on, because I think they're trying to go as subtle as possible with their advertising. People really don't like traditional advertising like you see a lot of times on Facebook. I know I hate seeing Facebook ads. Most of the time I'll leave the video because I don't want to watch the ad. And I think their way of advertising so far has been really clever, where even when I've noticed an ad on the platform, I've possibly wanted to watch it because it's entertaining and it's more well done. And they also don't show you ads frequently enough, or the same ad frequently enough for you to really get bothered by it the way, like on TV when you're watching a channel, they're going to show you that same ad like 7 times during the same show. So it's much more tolerable that way.
So it's always a freshness to it.
Exactly. They got the new down.
Yeah. And nowadays the Gen Zs or the whatever the next letter is, they frustrated. They don't like. They want the fresh thing, right? I have 2 kids. Exactly. They're always for that instant gratification, new things. 5 minutes is too much of time to get bored.
Can't pay attention that long. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty damn good. So if I'm an e-commerce owner, right, I'm looking for an influencer, and you are an influencer with the 2 million users, right, between 2 accounts around, so what are the things that I'm looking for an influencer, unlike other influencers in other platforms?
So I would say one thing that's really important to look at in influencer is like what type of content they're posting, and if that matches like the kind of content that you would post if you were had your own account. So for example, if you have let's say a company that sells baseball items, you're probably going to want to find an influencer that has some baseball related content. You're not going to want to go necessarily to an influencer that posts about arts and crafts, let's say, even though you certainly could and get a lot of engagement and views out of it. It just would make more sense to kind of target your demographic based on content, because there aren't a lot of demographic targeting tools at the moment in terms of, working through the platform with advertising. I would say another one though is also probably like general tone of their captions. So it's good to read, the captions of the influencer and see like what their tone is. Do they have more of a funny tone? Do they have kind of a serious tone? What do they got going on in terms of their wording? And does that kind of match with your company's, wording and vibes?
So TikTok is, like we mentioned some Gen Z, the word Gen Z a couple times, right? It sounds to me that this is more targeted towards Gen Z. If I'm wrong, let me know. And
currently it is, certainly.
Do you see that it's going to the Gen Ys and X's and V's and U's of the world?
Absolutely. And the reason I kind of see that a lot is if you think about where TikTok was either 6 months ago or even a full year ago, which isn't that long in terms of an entire app shifting in demographic, it was only used by Gen Z. There were no really adults on it. It was all dancing. And now even in just that kind of short 6 months to a year time period, I think the main user age is between like 20 and 22 now versus being down closer to 13 to 16. And that's a huge upward shift in just a year. I think next year the average age will be closer to 28 or 30 because a lot more, it adopts upwards as younger people show older people how to use it.
Very interesting. So are you saying that right now, if there's a product that's primarily used by 30 to 35-year-old, don't go in now, wait a year later? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Okay. Because my opinion is definitely that getting in early is always better. Okay. Even if your target audience isn't on the platform yet, if they're going to be, you want to have that ability to grab their attention easily. Now, it's much easier for a big account to grab attention than a small account. It doesn't matter who the followers are of that account. It's about how easily you can then distribute your information and marketing and materials that way. And so even if you can't, get directly to your audience right now, the ability in 1 to 2 to 5 years to do it easier than you've ever been able to do before is so valuable, in my opinion.
Now, let me ask you a slightly different question. 2 days back, yesterday, I think you posted something on social media. The bigger the pool, the followers you have, the lesser the engagement, right? So I'm kind of thinking that the 2 comments to it. One is that if I have the larger pool from a percentage stand, from a number, if you take a percentage, the percentage will be smaller, right? Let's say I have a product that I'm targeting to 30 to 40-year-old. right? If I'm going to start today and I have a massive followers, you're not saying that by the time, you know where I'm going with it, right? By the time I have 5 million users, then my engagement will be lower by the down the line. You're not saying that.
Not necessarily. Like your engagement itself should always go up as you grow.
Okay.
But the rate may or may not, because not all of the followers are going to be engaging with all of your posts based on, you know, the algorithm, based on the quality of that post. So there's just a lot of different factors that come into engagement rate. But overall, I think the engagement rate isn't that important. What's important is what kind of engagement are you getting? Because, you know, there's a lot of people who, I don't know how many people are familiar with TikTok who are watching this, but if you are and you go on and look at any big post and you scroll far enough down, you'll see tons of comments that say like first, early, FYP. And those are, yes, they're engagement, but they're not meaningful to like business-wise or your brand. They're just kind of like a factor of the platform where people are seeking attention. It's just something kind of built in.
So what can you give me an example of what's a meaningful engagement in TikTok?
Yeah, so to me, meaningful engagement on TikTok is people directly responding to kind of your caption with valuable information that you could use to better your business, to better your marketing strategies, to better understand your customer. So what I do in a lot of my posts is I'll ask a question. Questions are great captions. They get people, especially young people, want to feel really smart and like they're right all the time. I know the answer, da, da, da. They almost can't help themselves. Yeah. So I'll structure questions around, you know, do you like this color better? Or, you know, sometimes I'll ask people to comment their favorite color, because to me, color is a useful thing to figure out. Another way to kind of get information is, how do you rate this? Even whatever this is, you know, whether it's a product or a service or even just the video itself, you can say, rate this video. And you can get this feedback from your customers that's pretty accurate. Like they have no incentive to be dishonest. Like they want to give their opinion. And so you can gauge your engagement that way by saying, okay, how much do you guys like this? And see how many people respond and what they're responding with as well.
See, that's a terrific idea, because even if, let's say I'm a brand, I'm targeting that demographics that TikTok has, and even if TikTok doesn't give me a platform to sell, however, I can market test my content, my product ideas from that angle. This is pretty darn valuable, and I believe the advertisement cost maybe doesn't cost as much either.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you had a platform to test all your product ideas out on before you even show them to your real customers. I mean, that's what TikTok could be for a lot of businesses.
Yes, that's a terrific insight. Pretty good.
We're full of them. We're getting there.
Yeah. So what kind of contents have a long-lasting, I can't say long-lasting because it's short-lived, but really I would say a great impression on TikTok? It's always funny, or can you tell me about that? The switches, you know?
Yeah, so I think that, you know, funny content always is a little bit easier to get engagement on, and for people to remember, because when you're told a good joke, you tend to remember it because you want to make yourself happy again every time you think about it. So psychologically, you have incentive to remember things that make you happy. But for me, what I've really noticed, the things that really stick in my mind through maybe like days of watching new TikTok videos would be things that I found uniquely creative. So where I was like, wow, I wouldn't have thought about doing a video that way, or I wouldn't have thought about, you know, whatever's in the video to do something that way. And that sticks with me, I think, because personally, I'm very interested in new things and expanding my way of thinking. And to see videos created in a way that I hadn't been able to think of previously is, I think, a really great way to expand your creativity and just ways of thinking as well.
Very good. Is this going to be a long term, or TikTok as a advertainment tool? Is this going to be a long term trend, or it is a short term fad?
So I definitely think that it's going to be sticking around long term, again, because of the technology behind it. And then it's amassed an amount of users that I would call like critical mass, where there's just so many people. I mean, 1.5, it might be like 1.8 now billion people worldwide using the app and loving it. So I've found out through talking to a lot of my TikTok users, and then also through posting things that would say, go to Instagram to, enter this giveaway or whatever. Many of the TikTok users do not have another social app. They don't have an Instagram account. They don't have a YouTube. They don't have a Facebook. It is all TikTok, and they're loving it. They have no reason to go on other apps. And so I think that alone is very telling, because I have not seen any of the other apps be able to do that, right? Everyone who's got a Facebook account also has an Instagram or a Snapchat or whatever, or Twitter. I think that's true of pretty much every other social app. And I think it's fascinating that TikTok has captured a really young audience in a way where they have 100% of their attention and loyalty right from the get-go.
Now, let's take a look at B2B. In the United States, about $7.3 trillion worth B2B transactions are still conducted through phone, face-to-face, and fax, which represents about 63% of the manufacturers and about 32% of the wholesalers and distributors. Out of this, 75% of them going to have a strong e-commerce presence in the next 2 years. In B2C, the fun and humorous stuff works. We know that. But we don't think B2B and fun together, correct? But at the same time, there is this great trend called consumerization of B2B. Now, let us imagine myself as a B2B manufacturer. I know that some of my employees and my buyers are on TikTok, right? Then can you give me some insight as to whether I should use TikTok to attract or influence some of my employees or new hires and buyers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that because actually there's almost no B2B businesses on the platform yet, that there's a huge opportunity for people to kind of capture that attention. And here's how I think it would play out. I think it would play out starting with kind of a snowball effect of people who have nothing to do with B2B business actually being very interested in what happens in B2B business. What happens in a manufacturing company? What does a manufacturing business look like? What does their facility look like? How do they make their products? How do they process their orders? So if you think about, let's say, Amazon as, it's not a manufacturing company, but they do a lot of very kind of physical, in-person stuff with their business. I think most people would be fascinated to see videos from the Amazon warehouse with the robots. And gathering that attention will snowball into whoever it is that you're trying to target seeing it, because attention, when it spreads, again, it can also reach a critical level. Now it's on the news. Now it's getting picked up by articles in magazines. Now it's getting posted by me on LinkedIn, which is, a completely really targeted B2B network. So I think there's so many ways that the attention can spread from the platform, especially if you're doing something no one else is doing yet. I think any B2B business, if they got on the platform right now and started making some noise, that anyone who was a business, owner or business minded who saw that would be very interested and intrigued by it enough to want to tell other people about it. And that's an amazing way for, if you haven't previously been very digital, which I think, like you said, a lot of manufacturing companies have maybe they don't even have a website. Like some of them have very little digital presence and are doing a lot of work and spending a lot of money trying to get clients in a way that maybe they could be much more efficient, both time-wise and cost effectiveness with in terms of marketing.
That was a great answer. Now, if any of my audience would like to reach out to you and consult with you, ask you a few questions, how can they reach you, Maayan?
If anyone has any more questions, feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. My name is Maayan, Maayan Gordon. It's pretty unique. I believe there's only one of me up on there. So yeah, reach out to me. I love talking about it. I post a lot of content, and I'm really excited to see what happens in 2020.
I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and knowledge. And I wish you much success in your mission to take TikTok and teach our business community how to leverage this greatest platform.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was great. You are a wonderful host. Like, your questions and back and forth was great. I truly loved it.
Thank you.